You know, I feel like I'm at a campaign again. I love it. If I was a couple of years younger, I might try it again. But I wouldn't recommend it to too many people, okay? Not for what I went through. What I'd like to do is keep it short. And I want to get to the point where you guys might ask questions that you're thinking about. For those of you who've read the book, I'm sure you have some questions. And for those of you who've not read the book yet, this might help you understand where I'm coming from. And I got a little bit lucky today. And I got to be careful. I won't swear. And when I talk about the prosecutor, Chris Gear is his name. And we're televising this today because we want you guys who've been coming, listening to what we've been saying, we want you to pass the word around, because I'm talking about word of mouth is very, very important. And that's what we got to be thinking about. What we say, because we're going to pass the word through this medium, okay? And I got a little bit of a break today, I think. I don't know how many people saw the Tribune today. Oh, that's funny. Not that many.
Oh, sometimes, man.
Well, but I didn't expect to do this, but the prosecutor that was against us gave me an opportunity, I guess, because I'd like to answer some of the junk that he said, as he continues to say, in the newspaper, in the media. And I don't want to say any real bad things about him, but I don't have anything good to say about him. And I hope that you'll understand I don't really hate him. It says here that what they did to me, my family, I'll never forget. And I'm sorry. But I'm going to maybe respond to a couple of things that he said. And 20 years ago, when I was in prison, we had a newspaper person come to the prison and interviewed me for 13 hours. And I still didn't get done talking. And how am I going to do it in about an hour? It's curious, okay? But anyway, we talked for 13 hours, and then she also called the prosecutor at that time, still the same guy. We're buddies. And he made comments like, I always knew when Panici was lame, when his lips were moving. And I want to answer some of his stuff, maybe what he talked about. And 20 years later, he's still talking like that. And he's never, unless I show you with proof, I won't be able to live, I guess. But I have the proof, okay? And if I know how to work this thing, where are we at? From hero to zero. From hero to zero. We were heroes. When I talk about we're talking about me and Louise, Marshall, and Johnny Plantoni. We were the heroes at that time. It's not working. How come this thing's not working? Huh?
Joy of failure.
These were the good old days. You remember our campaigns? We had the President of the United States here. We had George Bush, the other president here. We had a senior citizen day. We had a couple of guys here that were mayor at one time, weren't they? With me? None of our mayors here? Okay. But anyway, my wife was preschool, and that was great. But anyway, get that. What I have to say this about the prosecutor, and I write it up there because I don't know how to remember what to call him, and I don't have too many things to say about him. But whether you realize it or not, a prosecutor like Chris Gear, they're not all like Chris Gear. He's a one in a million. He's a hateful son of a person. But a prosecutor can ruin a person's career. They can ruin a person's reputation. They can just ruin a person's, and some people, they can ruin a family, but they didn't do that with us. But, we'll talk a little bit more about Chris Gear. Do you have to do that thing, okay. What we're going to do, I got to see what we're talking about. Because I have a habit of rambling on, okay? And this got to keep me on focus. Because I do ramble. And what I want to talk about tonight are RICO charges. You know what RICO charges are? RICO charges are organization. People that were after, I think they made it up for Italian people especially. And when we're Italian, we're probably RICO, organized crime. And I don't know what they're thinking about, but that's not so in our neighborhood. I'm glad to see some guys from the hill here, from the old hill. But we're going to talk about that. Nick LeBeau was indicted and convicted for organized crime. There were 4 charges. There was a 1980 garbage contract that he got money on. There was a bulk, what they call a bulk pickup garbage that he got money on. There were 5 charges. There was a landfill operation, and we got a kickback on that. We got a kickback on 1983 garbage pickup. We got another kickback on when we did twice a week pickup. I don't know if many of you were still here or there at the time, but that's why there's some people that were living in Chicago Heights at the time would get this message too, okay? Now if you notice, those 5 charges, they were all garbage related. But what no one ever knew, or no one ever mentioned, even in our trial, I wasn't in charge of garbage. Louise Marshall was not in charge of garbage. Johnny Leontoni was not in charge of garbage. The one person, and I'm not knocking him, is I can't say anything bad about the guy at this point. The person in charge of that was Gene Sadis. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but by the same token, these guys, Prisco and LeBeau, were indicted. You realize they're indicted for RICO charges. And guess what happened next? The charges were dropped. Can you imagine that? Why would they do something like that? You only want all these RICO guys, they want all these organized crime guys. Why would they drop the charges? Well, I think maybe they got something for that in exchange, okay? And so we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about the water line. Many of you people that lived in Chicago Heights at the time knew that it was impossible to drink the water. But we got it. We got elected on that. The water was so bad, even after we got elected, the first year that we worked on this stuff, people used to come to the meetings and practically throw the glasses at us. And we went to neighborhood to neighborhood, and we worked on that particular thing because we made a campaign promise that we were going to bring Lake Michigan water to the city. And would you believe it? We did. It took us a little while, but it was a pretty tough project. And it took us till 1983. And another thing happens. Really consistent with what we're talking about. 5 people on the council voted for the water. 5 council people. Me, Johnny Glutoni, and Louise Marshall. Jim Sadis, and Nick LeBeau. There were 5 of us. And guess who got indicted? Chuck Panici, Louise Marshall, and John Glutoni. Nick LeBeau made about $100,000 on that kickback. Okay? And Jim Sadis never got indicted. And you got to understand something. Jim Sadis did criticize us a bit, but they never even called him to testify to give his side of the story, because he would have given us some good vibes, okay? So 5 people get indicted. 3 people get indicted. 5 people voted. I want to show you something with that. Very good. You see this? How much proof do you have to have for the federal government to let you alone, to leave you alone when they know you're right? This is a check. This is the kind of evidence we've had. This is a copy of the check signed by 2 people. The check went to this person. And you see on the top there? Nick LeBeau signed the check. He cashed the check. Okay? You see this guy? Or these 2 people who co-signed the check? Never got indicted. LeBeau never got indicted. We got indicted. 3 of us. And there was no way that we were connected to that check in any way. All the physical evidence went to LeBeau. And to the people who gave him the kickback. Okay, who paid, that's who signed. Those are the co-signers of the check, okay? You see where this went to? They never explained that to the jury? CJ Construction? That's a friend of Albert Taco. That's who got the check. We didn't get the check. So it just started to wonder about stuff like that. And then the other thing, I started wanting to talk about RICO charges. And I wanted... No, go ahead. This is Louise, when we first started. Here's, to me, is probably the biggest farce that we ever encountered. It may be the biggest farce in the whole country. We're just a little city in Chicago Heights that got all the heat. Couldn't believe it. That this 72-year-old lady, a beautiful person, who was with us all the years, 16 years she was with us. She was accused by our friend Chris Gear, who lied. And that's what I like to talk about. Louise Marshall, let me ask you a question. Do you believe it's possible that a 72-year-old woman, African-American woman, could go up to an organized crime chief and ask for money for part of a kickback? Do you think that's possible?
No way.
Even in the trial, lawyer did a really good job. He said, and I've got all that stuff. I've got everything I'm saying, I have it documented, okay? Her lawyer said, if you believe that a black 72-year-old woman could go out to this vicious, organized crime guy and try to make him for some money, then you've got to be living in La La Land. Okay? Can anybody believe that this could happen? Because we did some research. And one of our investigators, I don't know how many, I think he talked about 12 or 13 people, really all over Chicago Heights, of course, but when he asked the question, do you believe that this black 72-year-old woman could go up to Albert Taco, the chief of organized crime, and ask him for money and he would do it? He said, you gotta really be living in La La Land. It doesn't work that way, okay? So, give me another shot there. This is the proof that we have on that kind of stuff, okay? We have a document. Everything I'm talking about, we have documentation. And getting people to believe it is pretty difficult. And I'd like to be able, if we have time I'd like to respond to some of the things this prosecutor said. And you tell me if I'm right or wrong or what you think, or as I'm trying to get some feedback on what we're going to do with it, okay? So, what they said, and this, it's almost unbelievable. As I talk about it, I get ticked off all the time. I try to stay cool, but it's tough. In that document was signed by the government. It was a document that stated Albert Taco refused to talk or answer any questions. That's really not unusual, because what the government did in our case, they gave everybody free rides. If you do something, we'll do something for you. But they couldn't do anything for Albert Taco. He had a 200-year sentence. What are they going to do to him? Maybe we'll cut it down to 100 years. Maybe we'll cut it down to 40 years. It just doesn't work, okay? So, and Taco was known, he didn't like the FBI. And he said in an article in a newspaper, he said, I will never cooperate with the FBI. I would rather see my son die in hell than help the FBI. That's pretty a lot of hate going on there, isn't it? And maybe Gear deserves that kind of stuff. I don't know him well enough. But the bad part about it is when they said Taco refuses to talk. Those are the exact words, I think. He refuses to talk. So guess who we're going to depend on? We're going to depend on Nick LeBoo's words. Wow. We really had a good shot, didn't we? Taco won't talk. So the guy that the prosecutor said in his testimony in the trial, and I got it, I even know what page it's on, 1402. Okay? I read this thing. I've been going away for 8 years away. I had a lot of time. And I seem to remember that pretty well. They said about there's a fly here, but anyway, about LeBoo. They said LeBoo has lied his entire adult life. LeBoo stole from his own father. LeBoo stole from his own partner in business. LeBoo stole from his cousin. Now this is the guy that we're going to get to help us decide who's guilty or not guilty. That's pretty fair, isn't it? You like that? How'd you like to go to, how would you feel if you were on trial? And you had Parker, who won't talk about anything, and LeBeau, who's willing to talk, or else maybe go to jail for 50, 60 years. What would you do? You have no choice. And that's what they do to people. So, with the RICO charges dropped, and with the water line, where the guy made $100,000, and obviously, what I got to say to that, when you go to trial, if you watch TV and all that stuff, what do they say? Follow the money. That's who's got it. Follow the money. Well, let me tell you something. We followed the money. And guess what the prosecutor himself said? I wish I have a lot of that stuff with me, but you guys are a friendly crowd, I don't have to show you piece by piece, but I got them. You got to believe me, okay? In the closing argument, when it's all over, the prosecutor gets up to say, I think it's on page 28, 27, something like that. You can't hold me to that. But the money trail always ended with who? You're right. You guys are pretty sharp. You're smarter than the FBI guys. But anyway, the money trail, and specifically, down the line, I think there were 8 or 9 checks, water line. The guy that gave him the money said it in trial. What did you do with the money? They asked him, what did you do with the money? Gave it to LeBeau. And what did he do with it? I don't know what he did with it. And I want you to remember of what the people said in the newspaper article. The garbage. I told you the garbage, there were 5 charges. Now we had two people who were paying to get the kickbacks. One guy was Warndale and Fitzpatrick. They testified under oath. And when they asked them, who did you pay the money to? You paid it to LeBeau and Briscoe. And how about Panici and etc.? I never gave money to Panici. Never asked me for money. I swear to God, that's in the trial. So there's 5 charges right there with the garbage people. And then you have, remember in that little 5 charges? There was garbage. 2 of the charges were where we did twice weekly pickup. There was a kickback. It was paid by Taco, Albert Taco, the organized crime guy, in the 1983 garbage, paid by Taco. The FBI, in their testimony, under oath, traced the money. Guess where it went to? Albert Taco gave it to LeBeau, and LeBeau did this, and LeBeau gave some of it to Panici. And do you have proof of that? Well, no. They traced the money where it went to LeBeau, to his currency exchange and to his, he had an exterminating business, okay? And that's it. That there was we got something so strong as it relates to kickbacks. He admitted taking money from an insurance agent for, I don't know, $8 million a year. And they were going to really do a job on me. Especially on me personally. So what they did, 2 FBI people, me and O'Malley, and I don't know how many people remember Bob Pecoraro. Do you remember that fella? Good guy. Well, I thought he lived in the Heights for a while. He used to follow me around. Never found anything, but he got on the phone with LeBeau. two FBI guys and LeBou. And they called this man. And we got a tape recording of this. If I was really good with high technology, I could play it for you. And I'm someway going to let everybody else hear it some way or another, okay? Not tonight, but this is LeBou talking. It lasted for about maybe 40 seconds. Because the first time he called the line, nobody answers. So then he gets the victim, the one that was paying him, and he said, hey, I don't want to use the guy's name because I hate to bring those things up for him. But anyway, we have the proof. He said, hey, man, whatever his name, but you know that money that you gave me? And he says, what money?
Thank you.
He said, that money that you gave for me and Chuck? Now remember, the two FBI jerks, fellas, and LeBou himself, we got it on tape. Actually on tape. They didn't play that tape for the jury.
Of course not.
Why would they? But we had the tape. We got indicted. LeBou didn't get indicted. He was the only guy that got money there. That was just one of the examples. We got indicted for that. I got indicted, not anybody else. And there's no way that they could prove anything. And that's the whole thing, because you got to understand, I knew we got one lawyer on here, mother of a lawyer, always a lawyer. Anybody else? Anybody lawyer?
The felly. Johnson.
Oh, I know Johnson, fellas.
We're both lawyers, okay? You want to borrow my glasses?
I didn't see you.
Thanks. I see you.
Okay, but I wish, well, when we get some time to answer some questions, if we have any, I'm sure you will have some. I really would like to talk big time about what they call, what we had on the advocate witness thing. Advocate witness is so very difficult to understand. It really is, even for the lawyers. Okay, and I'm not saying all you and John don't understand it, because I haven't talked to them about it, but advocate witness means that you cannot be a prosecutor and a witness. Okay? So the analogy I always use, how many guys have kids playing small fry, baseball or basketball or, okay? Big okay. But anyway, the analogy is, you tell your 10-year-old kid that's playing his heart out for a baseball tournament, and you're going to say, before the game, kids, the umpire on the other side is going to be the same guy as the coach on that other guy's team. How would you like that? Would you let your kids even play? Okay? That's what they did to us. They had this prosecutor, Chris Geer. Chris Geer was his name. I like you guys to remember his name, because we'll be talking about it quite a bit from here on in. Because he'll be talking to me about it too, of course, and about me. So what he did, I got it with me. I got this stuff with me. There were two prosecutors, Chris Geer and Marshall McClellan. And I'm not saying all prosecutors are crooks, cheats, and not good people, because there are a lot of good ones too. Just like there are politicians that are all crooks. Okay? But what they said in what they called a motion in limine, I don't even know where these laws come from. Okay? In the motion in limine, they said, before the trial even started, they started it with that, what they call motion in limine. They said, Louise Marshall went to Albert Taco and asked him for money. And put her in, both of them. They signed it, their signatures. They didn't just say it, they signed it with their signatures, and I have it. Okay? So, then our lawyers were fighting that because they didn't have the proof. And you lawyers, I know now, we never should have even been tried with Louise Marshall. Because they made it so bad. If Louise Marshall, what they said Louise Marshall said, we could never get a fair trial. If she said it, but she never said it, that they went to Louise Marshall and she went to Taco. They had no proof of that. So in pre-sentencing, I know that some of the stuff gets a little boring. Not to me, but anyway, our lawyers fought them. But the judge would not sever us from the case. In other words, we should have, we should have been severed from the case. Because it would have been impossible for us to win, or even have a chance at winning, if Louise Marshall was telling the truth. And she was telling the truth, that she did go to Taco. She was not telling, I mean, she wasn't lying. She didn't go. But they said she did. They had the power to do this. They get this lady, and they said, you went to Taco because he will influence Chuck Tamici. So what they were telling her, they were telling her what to say. And she said, I never said that. And she swore to God. She under oath now. You got to understand that. She's speaking under oath. The prosecutor saying all these things and refuses to speak under oath. He said, I shouldn't have to talk under oath. Well, who the hell are you that the witness is going to speak under oath? Now you got to remember, if Louise Marshall was lying, what do you think would have happened? She would have been charged with perjury. She would get charged with perjury. The other guy refused to testify because he just didn't want to testify. And we have the proof that when he got the information about Louise Marshall came from the FBI, Neil O'Malley. Neil O'Malley, you look like a reporter. Are you? Okay, that's good. Where are you from?
Times, Northwest Indiana.
Huh?
Northwest Indiana Times.
Okay. Welcome. I hope you're getting out of this. I just want you to know I have the guts to stuff in writing, swear to God, kinds of thing, and the other guys don't have it. They're the opposite. They cannot prove what they're saying. We're moving through all that stuff. And how do you feel about a guy that doesn't have to testify, and no matter what he says, it doesn't make any difference. He doesn't have to prove it. How do you feel about the judge, Judge Zago, who let him get away with it? Do you guys know who Judge, you ever heard Judge Zago? Have you?
Yes.
You haven't heard. Judy? Augie? Judge Zago is the same judge that gave Blagojevich 14 years service, 14 years prison term. Sort of rough, I think. I don't know if Blagojevich's fan, but I think that was a little unjust. I don't think, I was surprised, and I think a good judge, I think, like Zago, was influenced by a you should really do is, when you call him, you should ask him, you know, this dumb guy's up there talking about you. And all you got to do is shut him up by saying, where did you get this information about Louise Marshall? Can you let me know what you... He knows it, he said, but he's not going to talk. Okay? So he had a great influence on the judge for some reason. Because one of the reasons, or one of the things, I have a problem with the judge. And I don't know this for sure. I really don't. Because I was pretty good friends with the Governor Thompson. And when Jacob became a judge, he sponsored him through Ronald Reagan. And you know, we had Ronald Reagan here, but we were really buddy-buddy. He's the president. I'm just a little guy in a little town, okay? And I think, and I'm really sorry to say, I'll mention it, because we had a reporter that tried to contact Jim Thompson, and we were always friends. And he asked him, because I made a claim in the book, but I didn't say for sure. I think I recommended Zago to Thompson. And now Zago comes back, I believe, if I'm right, I'll never know unless Thompson reveals it. Did I sign one of the books or one of the papers with some other committeemen recommending Zago? I really like to know that. If you could, as a reporter, if you could find that kind of stuff out, then he should have recused himself, I think. I don't know that for sure. I apologize if I didn't, but I think I did. But I really can't prove it. But what it turned out with Zago, I had some other things I picked up about him that I didn't like, and I'm not afraid to say it. When I got arrested and charged and won the sentence, and we had the opportunity where my lawyers asked that we write letters to Zago, as judge. We said, we sent the letters. I got letters, 6 of them, from family, from friends, from people who were brought business into town, complimenting the hell out of me. Really great. And Zago was saying this to the people. Yeah, this Tanucci guy sounded like a good guy. He did some nice things. And I really thought, well, this guy's going to say something good about me. He said, but that proves only one thing. A sucker is born every minute. How's that? Pretty good compliment, isn't it? Because my family loved me. There was one businessman that wrote to him and said, if anybody could have made me any money, I was very, very lucky that I didn't meet Nick LeBeau, because he would have been prime. If Chuck would have done it to me, maybe I would have done something. Chuck never touched me. I really complimented for that. But he's a sucker too. I had a judge, a friend of mine. I shouldn't mention his name, but anyway, it's in the book. I don't know if he did it legally or illegally. He wrote a letter to the judge too, in my favor. I guess he's a sucker too. Maybe he didn't know he was a judge, but he must have identified himself as a judge. But it was, this was the feeling from this guy. Then the final blow, I think, the final blow came when it made it impossible for us to get a fair trial. Totally impossible. In the closing arguments of the trial, when there's no more talking, and the closing arguments where the Gear, my good friend the Gear, says to the trial, jury, he said, Judge, Chicago Heights may be the most corrupt in the whole United States. Can you imagine that? What we have just accomplished over the years, the most corrupt. When we brought Lake Michigan water to Chicago Heights, that's probably, in my estimation, that was our legacy. We didn't get any credit for that. That was our legacy. The Blue stole $100,000 from that particular contract. Didn't get indicted. Gene Sadis, who voted for this, didn't get indicted. And they don't even call Gene Sadis in to testify. They didn't even call him to testify. I mean, things like that. Just think about the tape message that when they were trying to make the victim, who was an insurance guy, the Blue and the two FBI guys trying to get him to say Panici, he didn't say it. He never said it. Never said it in the trial. Never said it in his 302s. And that's the way they do it. And I'm just giving you a little bumps and runs here with that kind of thing. And as I try to close down what we're talking about, I'm trying to say some things. I might encourage you, might ask me some questions. I'd love to answer some. I brought some material with me. If I need proof, I could give you that too. If I don't have it now, I have it. I have all the stuff. I've been playing with this for 20 years. There are nights I don't sleep. Can't stop thinking about it.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
1 second, okay? In 20 years since this happened, I've never publicly said one word, and anybody here knows that. Never said one word about this in 20 years. What happened to him happened to our whole family. Because we're a strong family, we got through it. My brother-in-law and I were at every day of that trial, and one of my things that my dad always said, and I'll never forget, is that when it happens, this happened to us, and nobody else will ever understand it because it didn't happen to them. So you're never going to sit here, and I don't know if he's trying to convince everybody of his innocence. I think everybody's pretty convinced of his innocence, that part of it. But you had to be there. I'm so glad that I was at that trial every day. Every single day. I took off any kind of work I had to do. I was there every day. And that's the only way you could truly get a feel for what they can do to you. Now, there's a few things that and I don't want to steal your thunder, but I got to get this said. 20 years I've been hearing this, so. Chris Gear is a great prosecutor. You know what he's doing today? He's a defense lawyer. That's what they do. They make they're a prosecutor. They make their bits. They win all the trials when they're prosecutors. It's kind of a funny game that they got. They win all but then when they're a defense attorney, they don't do too much. Okay, so that's another thing. Guess who else was a career prosecutor? The judge was a career prosecutor. So here's what you're up against. You're up against a prosecutor and a judge that's a career prosecutor, so that may explain why, how many, 600 times or whatever, there was, what do you call it?
820.
Whatever it was. The judge always upheld their, what do you call that?
Objection.
Yeah, objection. Every time the judge.
Not every time.
Well,
but
okay.
95%.
It seemed like it. It seemed like it. Okay, so that's what you're up against. Okay. The other thing is the fact that they used $600,000 as a number over 16 years divided by 5 guys. This man gave up his whole life for, if you start dividing, you're not going to come up with maybe more than $5,000 a year, okay? So that's what he gave up his whole life for. Then, my last thing I'm going to say, and I can't even believe I'm standing up here doing this.
I can't do that.
Today, Garrett said they had a mountain of evidence. You have to be in that courtroom to see their mountain of evidence. The mountain of evidence is every day they pull up a cart, 2 carts, and all this stuff, and everybody, the jury's looking at it. You know what that stuff was? It was minutes from the board meetings. It was minutes from the board meetings. They had all of this stuff. They pull up to make it look like they had all this stuff. They never went into that stuff because all it was is the stuff that they voted on every day and all of that. And that's where they actually could have shown where Sadis signed all of this stuff. They never went into that. They just rolled it in to make it look like they had something. Am I right?
You're right.
Okay.
I'm not going to argue with you.
So I guess my point, because I'd like to see this thing. People have something to say, but if you haven't read the book, you need to read the book because you're having a hard time getting people to really even understand what happened here. Because it's almost impossible to put your arms around what happened to this man. Okay, it's impossible. And if I could have prepared something, I know I'm starting to ramble, but if I could have prepared something, I wish I could prepare something to make you people understand. Well, these are the people that really care about it. I don't care if there was 14 people in here. It's the people that really care about it. And there doesn't have to be 1,000 people here because these are the people that care about them that you really want to understand what happened. You probably never will, but if you read the book and try to understand it, that would be a better way to come back the next time, and then you have a better understanding. But if you were there every day and you heard this stuff, like I said, I wish I could say something to make you understand, but that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. What is your name? But there's a couple of things you beat me up on. So I had something else to say that I didn't like. Some of the insults from my friend. I gotta ask you, what do you think about a guy when he's a prosecutor before he becomes a defense attorney, he gives 7 people immunity in my trial. 7 people immunity. You know what immunity is?
That's the only way they could convict you.
They get somebody that they got something on.
That's right.
And they want to do them a favor. If they do them a favor, quote,
Right.
so if you do this, let's take a look. What we just talked about. We'll do it. Organized crime gets indicted. Not only did he get indicted, they dropped the charges. And then there were 8 other charges, or 7 other charges, that he never even got indicted on. They had everything on him. So that's a total of 12 different charges that he didn't have to worry about. And as a reporter, I see, you have to see that. I have that. Okay? You almost find it impossible. Here's a guy, doesn't get indicted, but he does tell his story, a false story. I want you to go to jail for 60, 70 years in this case. And that's the same thing. There were only 4 people in the trial. And I hate to mention names, but I have to because it was good friends of mine, I thought. Who said stuff, and I have all the proof. And 4 people removed, all charges dropped. We served 11 months. I served 8 years. That makes me angry when I think about it. Okay? There was Galdario, man at his wedding. He made up stuff that I was almost embarrassed at the things that he said. They made a fool out of him. It was funny, some of the stuff that he said. He double talked about stuff. He forgot about stuff. And at one time, he said, LeBeau did something wrong. And then 20 minutes later, he said, oh no, he never did anything. And then there was one fellow, I didn't know him as well, was Rodney Costello, LeBeau's first cousin. And when he got indicted, they didn't even use this guy. Because I don't know if they had anything on him. So right before the trial started, they bring him up into the grand jury. Not even our grand jury. He was being worked on another trial. And he said something that's totally wrong. He made up some stuff about, well, first of all, he explained he paid LeBeau, didn't pay me. It's in the trial. He paid LeBeau, didn't pay Chuck Panici. And he hurt me and John by saying that LeBeau gave him $10,000. Well, he gave LeBeau $10,000 to split with me and John. Never happened. They have no proof of that, but they used it anyway. He didn't even get indicted. We got indicted. Incredible. And then, Chuck, I thought you were going to maybe talk about, I talked about the hypocrite, right? Did you ever call me a hypocrite? Because we were reformers, and we did the right thing, but that was a hypocrite. Because when he became a defense attorney, he changed the rules. Because he said, when he was defending somebody, he was defending somebody in Chicago. Marion Santos, that's what it was, right. So, he says, those people have immunity? He said, you can't trust somebody with immunity. Was I a hypocrite? You can trust 7 or 8 people that testify against me, give them immunity, but you can't trust anybody that's immunity against him. Aren't they cute? I really wish, as Chucky said, in order to get the whole story, I would have to rent this place for 3 weeks.
Well, let me tell you, the reason is because just what you were talking about with Costello. There's no way you could stand there and keep talking about this because you already forgot that Costello got that money 2 different ways. He told 2 different stories of how he got that money and how it was. So
he and LeBeau. So I'm glad I got my sons around too. I know I love him for some reason.
I'm just saying, it's time. I think it's time to open it up to if anybody has any questions.
Wait a minute. Let me just get through with Costello kind of a thing that they did. You know, I'm just trying to give you guys a feel of what you have to go through. Costello testified. And my lawyers, sometimes they were really good. They say, Mr. Costello, when you gave this money to LeBeau to give to Chuck, where were you? He said, we were in the restaurant, Michael's restaurant in Matson. And he said, I can remember. He slid the money across the table with all that kind of stuff. Okay, now it was LeBeau's turn to testify. And where did you get the money from? Because I remember, we went into the truck, and they gave it to me in the truck. Well, how do you remember stuff like that? Was it one way or was it the other? And then they deny and deny. So I got a million stories, but I'm not going to bore you all night long. But anyway, maybe you can't said, remember, we have the proof that the money ended up with Lebu. He said it in the paper trail, went to Lebu. And we have documentation, about 8 or 9 ones where the people say, I gave the money to Lebu. And I gave them, the guy with that they had on the phone, they had a tape. They had a tape that they forgot to play to the jury. The jury would have had a good idea right there. The trial could have been over with that kind of stuff. We have more than that. We have Taco refusing to talk. So now we're going to let this little weasel be the guy. How do you do stuff like that? He's fighting for his life. He said he thought he was going to get 70 or 80 years. So now we're going to give him a chance to get Tanichi, and maybe we'll let him all go home. Okay? But I got a lot more I could say, but maybe you guys could pull some stuff out of me.
I have a question. I'm a Perry Mason fan.
Perry Mason, okay.
And Perry Mason always presents into evidence, and they have to have a paper or a document. They present it to the judge, and then he then enters into evidence. Who was it that disallowed your evidence, and why did he disallow it?
Okay, guys. Thanks, guys. The question I guess, Katie, is who does it? It's the prosecutor. This guy that was the prosecutor against us, he was also a witness against us. So you think he's really going to tell the judge the truth? Think about it. He wants to make a career. He is now working for a high-priced law firm. He made a name for himself. The judge, he was a judge, of course, but the U.S. attorney, John, I don't know if you might know this, I'm almost positive, the guy that was a U.S. attorney, who was the one that allowed immunity, he had to order the immunity, he had to okay it to the 8 people or 9 people, he is now a full judge. Okay? So some of the things I really can't answer. I just have to look at it logically. Okay?
There was no physical evidence admitted. The tape that they had was not admitted. The other tape, we have one tape. How many thousands of tapes must have they had? They did it for 10 years. There was not one piece of physical evidence. The check wasn't admitted in evidence. They never would have been indicted had the check been presented properly.
But don't they have to give the defense, the prosecution has to give the defense all of their evidence so that...
Wait, you're asking a good question. I think you're on my side because I can tell by the questions you're asking. Okay?
I'd have been on the jury for you.
Okay. I think I have it here. I'd rather read it if I got it. Real important. They call it case law.
Yes.
Case law. And for you, I told you I was going to bring you this, and make sure you ask me that question. Here's what the case law. This is the law. I didn't make this up. I typed it up from the case law. U.S. versus Boyd. The government must correct false testimony of a government witness. In other words, if they know that Lebu was lying, they got to correct him. You got to correct him. Okay? Whether the testimony is elicited upon direct examination by the prosecutor or whether elicited on cross-examination by the defense. In other words, to the extent that the government allows such testimony to go uncorrected, perjured testimony will be considered as part of the government's case. Okay? Even if elicited by defense counsel on cross-examination. So no matter how they get it, to be sure, where the defense counsel is unaware that he has elicited perjured testimony because the government has not corrected it, did not correct the perjured evidence. It knew to be false. But in a very real sense, the government is the party using the false testimony. That's case law. I'm not making that up. Yes.
Uncle Chuck, how many times did Nick...
Don't let Tommy be my uncle. I'm your uncle.
Mr. Panici, how many times did Nick LeBou admit on cross-examination that he lied on direct examination? And did the government ever correct any of those lies? Was it over 400 times?
He said, I don't recall. You know when he couldn't answer a question? You know what he would say? I don't recall. I don't recall that I cashed a $45,000 check at my currency exchange. Wow. If I had $45,000 in my checking account, I remember that. And I don't remember I cashed it at my currency exchange. Are you serious? You see the picture, it comes right from there. But you don't remember that. You don't remember anything. 850 times. Is there something suspicious about that? Yeah. Now, and when we press them, the judge would say, well, you don't remember. What can you do? Don't remember? You don't remember his name? Yes, sir.
Did your lawyer request that tapes that you talked about to be played?
Yes.
And why did they refuse?
Ask Chris Gear. He has the answers. I don't have the answers to those kind of things.
Ask the judge, Charlie, not Chris.
Pardon?
Judge ruled that. Ask the judge why he went along with the prosecution.
The judge.
But he's prosecution minded.
By the way, you had a lawyer that was a double-A baseball player playing in the major leagues. That didn't help him.
What?
You had a lawyer that wasn't even a double-A baseball player playing in the major leagues. And I'm not saying his name or anything. I'm just saying that was a mistake right from the beginning that you don't know you're making. I mean, it happens.
Well, one of the things so you guys on the hill, I know there's a couple of guys on the hill, he talks about my choice of friends or something like that. I don't even know, I didn't read it real good yet, but anyway, they forgot to say, I also had some good friends on the hill that were professionals, never went to jail, couple of judges, some lawyers. It's like one guy in the back over there was on 22nd Street. I live on the same street as him. And he was on the hill. Turned out to be a very successful lawyer. Jerry Clemenza lives next door. He's probably the biggest name in sports. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the doctors that we had. Hobo, Dick Petraka. How about those guys? They weren't organized crime. But anybody from the hill, I think I made some comments or something along the way. I don't know. I just don't know what their values are, what they're thinking about, what their goals are. I don't know what their goals are. But if I knew what their goals were, I know why they did what they did. You see, I do know what they did. I do know. I have all the proof. I don't know when they did it. I do know it's a new trial. I still haven't figured out why they did it. Why did they do it to me and John and Louise? I was the mayor for 16 years. I was on a park board for 13 years. For 29 years. I never was accused of anything until LeBou started when LeBeau was not even on the council, the first 4 years, nobody got in trouble. Nobody had any trouble until they came on the scene. So, why not open up for some questions if you guys have the moves?
Chuck, if you had to do over again, would you hire these 2 lawyers?
Well, the question is from one of these Hungry Hill guys is, would you hire the same lawyers?
No.
Of course not. I hate to say it, but of course not. I do have John Cefali do it because he didn't do them kind of cases, I don't think.
I've done a better job, Chuck.
Pardon?
I think I could have done a better job.
I know you could have done it.
That's for sure.
And I know the price would have been right because Johnny always helped me. I'll never forget it. But, somebody else was...
I wanted to say something, Chuck, that you should mention that when the government indicts you, they also freeze all your assets,
Right.
which for most people makes it very difficult to hire an attorney. Because they freeze all your assets, you haven't even been found guilty.
Well, they didn't freeze, they freeze so much, they leave you enough, because I was really, I was making a good living. I didn't have to steal my money from Manure to city. And I made a good living, and I could prove that, and they knew it. And I could afford what I did with my life.
Still,
But the only problem is when, if I made all the money that they said, I got some grandkids here that are questioning me about what I do with the money.
Yeah, I had one more question, and I'm going to shut up for the rest.
Then better shut up.
During that time, I want to know if Joey or Debbie got anything, because I don't remember getting anything.
And you know who did it? My other daughter, Tammy. I think she got it all. Ask her about it.
She's on the Mokina, yeah.
She ran away to another town. Really, that's what I'm saying. They've been, you gotta understand, they investigated me for 11 years. 11 years. They brought me to the 302s, what they call, when the FBI questions you. They would try to get me to lie. Because once you lie to them, they got you. Then you owe them. Okay? They would ask me stupid questions like, do you know Albert Taco? No. I would have been sort of dumb if I had said that. Right? He lived on the same streets as us guys. And it's, if I would have said no, you're dumb. Okay? And I said to them, when they were investigating me, okay? In 1988, no, it was 1981, or one of them years, I said, you guys are making some accusation. Why don't we just brainstorm? Become a brainstormer. Whether some of you guys know it or not, but I said, why don't we get our police department, our people, and then bring your people. And we'll sit down and talk and see if we can figure something out. Why is the Vagabond Club doing what they do? Why is this other poorhouse doing what they're doing? I was mayor for a couple of years before that. I said to them, that's your job, that's not my job. I don't have that kind of strength. Guess what they did? They didn't come. They never called back. And I got that in writing. This is, if you want to see that, I'll show it to you as a reporter. But yeah, I'm sorry.
When President Reagan was coming to visit here and visit you,
Yes.
didn't the CIA do a background check on you?
Of course.
Sorry, yes.
That's a loaded question. But that's you're right, and that's you're right, because when we were bringing President Reagan, you got to understand, I sat next to him for dinner, for lunch. If I was a kook, the Secret Service and they gave me like a little badge or something to show that I was okay. But we never mentioned that, and nobody ever mentioned that. That's a good point. We should have mentioned that more. Obviously, if I had to do it all over again, I would do like Sam said. I'm going to have the same worries. I would hire Deuces. But, yeah, that's a good point. Yes?
You getting any Christmas cards from Picarero?
I heard that he worked in a prison someplace or something like that. Not as a guest, but as one of the guys. But yes.
What is the chance of you getting your conviction reversed?
Probably none. I don't even. You know, that's a good question, though. I'm not doing this to try to get anything because this is not a money maker. Okay, it costs me, and I don't care. I'm not complaining about it. But to get it turned over, I don't know. You got to understand, I'm not the only guy whining about this. There's about 250,000 people. They call it Project Innocent. That have the same type of problems. And they've been going through the same type of things. And one of the reasons I'm having this thing videoed is to see if we could get this video into the hands of some other people who could give us some national recognition. For a little town like us, to have two presidents visit us, for what we did with the water, we had some good things. And that's when we went from heroes to zeros. That's when we get the title. But, any more questions?
Just a statement. Did you ever give any thought to the fact that maybe this whole thing started because you were becoming a powerful person and that people who were in opposition to you wanted to uproot you and get you out, and this is one way that they could get it started in order to debase you? And do you decide?
If everybody heard the question, could it be that they were after me because we were getting too strong as a political unit?
Yes.
And if anybody, and I can never prove that, but there's some indicators, and the indicator would be 1 year in 1989, I think it is, and I have the paper, where they said all the big guys in politics and all that stuff, and I was one of them at that point. And the U.S. attorney at that time was also a politician. We had a picture next to each other. He's a Republican, and I'm a Republican. And he makes the newspaper, Steve Neal, the big-time reporter, he said, this guy might want to be the governor of the city. So I would think if anybody had that motivation, and if anybody could do it, it would be the U.S. attorney. Not at that time, but he was now a judge, though, so he did something right. And I'm not saying he did it wrong or crooked or anything like that, but that's a motivation. The one prosecutor, the lady prosecutor, I understand is now sometimes a big job with the federal government, but I don't know that for sure. But that's why I always like to answer any question. Like I read that. How they can't do what they did. They knew. They actually gave perjured testimony. And it's really tough to understand that, but that's what they did. And that's what, and the biggest thing that I'm trying to make, if the prosecutor could get away with telling the judge that I'm not going to testify, if he could get away with stuff like that and make up a story about Louise Marshall, he would do anything. I don't care what LeBou or Taco or anybody did. The prosecutor did the most damage to us because they lied. I hate to use that word lie, But there's no pretty way of saying it. They were not telling the truth. And all the guys, I still say, I don't know if I'm going to write the guy or how to do it, but just say where you got this information. Just tell us, then I'll let it go. Doesn't make any difference to him. He's still lying. And he can't prove what he said. It would be real good. I'd say real good if he had an answer, but I know he doesn't have an answer. Because he contradicted what the FBI guy said. So one of them was lying. The FBI guy who told the truth, or him. The FBI guy got documentation and proof. He doesn't have anything. I will not testify. I don't have to testify. Well, you're a bonehead. Well, that's, in the long run, I guess you're right. You don't have to testify if you don't want. But, really, you guys, any more pussies? Yes.
I got an easy one for you, Chuck. I think everybody here, I would like to thank you personally for all of the things that you have done.
Thank you.
And you know, you and John and Julio with the small fry.
Oh, yeah.
And my kids and my grandkids played that, which made them better citizens because of you.
I thank you that because that's been going on for about 35 or 40 years. That's one of the things that the most corrupt city in the whole United States did. Because I'm so glad to see Mike Sessler was on the park board with me at the time. And we did through the park board.
Charlie, we started in 67.
Pardon?
Small fry started in 67.
I hear another guy who was on small fry too. It was me and John we did that on the run. But it was some great things happened. And it's still going on.
That's the only complaint I had about your book. You didn't mention small fry. You should have done. To your credit. You're one of the guys who helped me.
Well, when I write another book, it's going to be the first part. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, my son Chuck, and my other son, whatever, what's your name? And I gotta say something. My daughter, I love her. I didn't invite her to come here. And she's pissed off at me. But I didn't invite any of my kids. They just found their way some way. Okay? But I got another daughter that's not here. But she had a birthday party, so I forgive her.
She lied.
I could have a birthday.
I gotta go.
Okay, right.
Chucky, I belonged to the Union. I was president, I was a Democrat. He runs, I vote for him, I took Democrat. Remember that, Chucky?
I sure do.
The best mayors we ever had.
Thank you, Rex.
I used to watch him, he'd come through the alleys, make sure the garbage, everything was taken care of. He opened up Balmer Road. Nobody says nothing about that. Remember?
I think a little bit more important that we got Lake Michigan water. But Mike is always like that Balmer Road going through.
Balmer Road was excellent. I gotta get up.
You're excused. Hey, if there's nothing else, guys, you sure there's anything I would put light on some way? Because I really believe I can answer anything. Because I know it and I live it. And I want to be able to get the story out. And I'm going to ask you guys, this video tonight, we're going to be able to get it to you. Whoever's, and I'm not a high-tech person, so I don't even know how the hell to do it. But we're going to do it. If we had this kind of technology when I was mayor, we'd have really become the #1 country. Not only because the technology is really something. And it's maybe we'll be doing something. Anything else?
Panici, my name is Mike, in front of your son Joe's. I just want to say thank you for letting people know just what the government can do to you if they get it in their head. I thank you for making it public.
Thank you. It's hard to make people understand until it happens to your family. It really is. It's almost impossible. It's a hard fight. I'm not giving up though. I'm not giving up. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't. I'm sure I will. Be happy to. Thanks all. Thank you guys. We got some water, somebody, please.